What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So, considering it's Halloween, there was some spooky shit going on with TD-Ameritrade today. I'm sure I'm not the only one who experienced this. Actually, I know I'm not the only one who experienced this. So today there was massive lagging, freezing, and just pretty much all-around system failure with TD-Ameritrade's thinkorswim trading platform. It was crashing and it was freezing multiple times throughout the day, which in essence led to many traders losing money on their trades, myself included, losing some money on one trade for sure, potentially two, and I'll explain that in more detail here in just a second. So right now we're going to look at all the trades that I made for today, which were quite a bit. Had a pretty active day trading. Nonetheless, finished the day up just about shy of $1,000. But really want to talk to you guys about the wins and then some of the trades that were losses and the problems I was experiencing today with thinkorswim regarding kind of the system freeze. Okay, so first, I would like to start with HBI. That was the first ticker not the first ticker, but one of the first tickers I traded today. All right. Give it a second. The screen will pop up here in just a bit. There we go. So the first stock I traded, or one of the first, was HBI. It was actually a profitable trade to begin with, but for some reason, I was not able to get out of my position for the life of me. The worst type of execution that I've ever seen, ever, from thinkorswim. It pretty much made 0 cents. And then it got really funky later on in the day. So I'm going to try and break this down in as much detail as I can. So this is an earnings play today. HBI, opens up. It's kind of failing to break up. So I'm like, all right, this is probably going to roll over. I'll take a short below these candles here, this red dotted line. So let me put the trades on here for you. So this is going to be very interesting when you see exactly what happened. You really can't tell the type of shit show that actually happened in this trade based on the way the orders look here because it's inaccurate. When you take a trade on thinkorswim and you close out multiple kind of trades on the same candle, it will just combine it into one lump sum. So right here it shows that I bought 2,000 shares back, but you can actually see there was multiple buys in here. There was actually multiple buys of like 200 shares at a time, 200 shares at a time, 200 shares at a time, trying to exit my 2,000 share position. So let me explain it. All right, so on this candle, as we start to break down, I go to enter a short. You can see I get short 2,208 shares. My first initial order was for 2,500 shares. It was struggling to get filled, all the 2,500 shares. And I actually hit sell 2,500 shares again. So I actually tried to go in 5,000 shares short on this drop. That only filled me 2,208. So then I canceled the remaining shares on the first order and canceled the second order for 2,500 shares. Okay, so again, total, I try to get filled 5,000 shares. Granted, I'm really happy I didn't now because of the type of shit show that was going on. So as we start to drop here, I get filled 2,200 shares and I'm profitable on the trade. I'm making money. At the bottom of this red candle, I go to cover up 2,000 shares. I basically went to cover up majority of my position. Could not get out. Mind you, I was not doing a limit order. I was just doing a market order to get out. And I couldn't even get out on a market order. And it's not like the stock didn't have decent volume. If you look at the volume, I mean, there's 200,000 shares, another 100,000 shares, yet I cannot get out. Granted, it's possible that it had to do something with the market makers, but I'm going to say it more so had to do with thinkorswim's platform today not executing orders properly, because I've never seen this type of delay ever trying to get out on my order. So again, as I'm green on the trade, like almost $200 or $300, I'm trying to take it off. I'm like, all right, that's a decent win. I'll start my day off with a nice win. Cannot get out the 2,000 shares. I cancel the order. Try to get out 2,000 shares. Cancel the order. Cannot get out. So I'm like, all right, how about I reduce it down to 200 shares and see if I can get out with 200 shares. So I had to close out 200 shares at a time, probably like 10, 15 times. 200 shares, market order out, 200 shares, market order out, 200 shares, market sell, market sell, market sell, market sell, just to get out. It was the most ridiculous thing. All right. And then eventually I pretty much get my full order out, and all I had left was these 8 shares. Out of the 2,208 shares, I had 8 shares left trying to sell a market order, and they would not take my 8 shares off on a market order. And as you guys know, typically market orders are pretty much instant fills. But today, some weird shit was going on, and I really can't explain it. Okay, remember how I said I tried to get filled 5,000 shares and then I canceled those orders? Well, guess what happened? Later in the day at 9:50, this was 9:35, mind you. So 15 minutes later, I look at my P&L and it's starting to jump around, though I have no open orders. I don't have any open trades. So how is my P&L fluctuating? Randomly, I get filled 2,500 shares right here. Never took a trade there. Nope, didn't even happen. Wasn't even looking at the stock. But somehow I get filled 2,500 shares short there. So what was that? That was the other 2,500 share order that I tried to put in here that I canceled. Magically gets filled 15 minutes later up here. Yeah. Luckily, I actually turned over and looked at it in time, was actually able to make a little bit of money on it. I got short at 14.65, not really, and then I covered up at 14.64.9, so I made like a penny. Anyways, so that put me down 331. So I went from being up a couple $100 to being down 300 because the system would not take my position out. So definitely some bullshit there, okay? But let's not let that ruin the day, all right? Now we will go over to AMD. AMD is a stock that I acquired a loss on. Well, actually, I won by the end of the day, but we did take a loss on it earlier in the day. All right, so we got a couple trades here. So here was my first trade on the day with AMD. I got long 2,000 shares here on this candle at 33.09. Pops up, comes down, presses up again, and that's where I start to take some shares off. So let me shrink this down a bit. So we pop up over some of this resistance, and I take off 1,000 shares at 33.14. I take off another 500 shares at 33.19, and then another 500 shares at 33.11 as I can feel kind of the pressure pressing down. And I was like, all right, well, time to take it off. So that right there accumulated, I think it was like $100 win or something. Pretty small, nothing too major, okay? And then we end up taking, oh, this doesn't seem like the right day. Excuse me, is this? Oh yeah, sorry, that was the other day. My apologies. That's not what I meant to be on. All right, so here we are. Let's look at it then this day. This is the day that I'm meant to be talking about. Okay. So my first trade on AMD was right here, 2,000 shares long at 32.99 for the breakout over that little small resistance. Pops up, I'm winning. I'm red, we go, yeah, so it pops up, I'm green about 100, and then I end up closing out the trade right there, pretty stupidly, right off of the previous support. So long story short, I get long for this small little breakout, pops up to the VWAP, pulls back, and it does, in fact, hold support over the previous breakout level. For some reason, I thought it was going to drop. If you looked at the SPY or the overall market at that time, it was going down pretty aggressively. So I ended up closing that position in fear that it would end up kind of dropping out on me because of the downward pressure we're seeing in the market. So not necessarily a bad trade. Could have done better, of course. But at the end of the day, I ended up losing just a little bit of money on this trade. Okay. Next trade. Right, so we press up, then we come all the way back down, we reject the VWAP, so I'm like, okay, this wants to break support and fall into a big short. So I'm like, okay, I'll get short 2,000 shares at 32.86, which is on this candle, as we're starting to break down support here. All right, doesn't fully break, we kind of bounce a little bit, and then as it starts to roll over, I add another 500 shares. And then what happens? Thinkorswim completely freezes. The charts aren't moving, nothing's moving. So I'm like, this isn't good. So what do? I open up my phone, go onto the application, and close out the 2,500 shares in a market order. By the time I got to my phone to close it out because of the lag, The price had already spiked up, and I ended up closing out that trade at $32.95 for a loss. So the freeze ended up causing me to lose more money than I probably would have lost. It still would have been a losing trade, but not quite as big because I would have been able to manage it a little bit better. But of course, Thinkorswim freezes, and that cost me to lose a couple $100 on the day. So then all in all, I was down about $300 on AMD ticker altogether. All right. So those were kind of the two really bad trades on the day that were pretty much all due to Thinkorswim's platform freezing on the day. So not cool. So now let's go up further to where we traded AMD good on the day. All right. So later in the day, you can see AMD. Let me do this a little differently. So AMD goes on this monster move. Jeez. All right. So AMD goes on this really nice push up in the day. And ideally, here's the 34 mark. Okay. 34 mark is a significant resistance from the other day. All right, so we got a lot of people kind of shorting off this whole dollar mark, and we keep pressing higher, 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 kind of forming somewhat of a bullish pennant here. All right. Well, anyways, I get long here, 2,000 shares. 2,000 shares at $33.92, just as it's about to break out. So just before the breakout, I get long 2,000 shares at $33.92. We break out. This red candle comes down, tests the breakout level, holds, pushes up. I sell 1,000 shares at $34.15. I sell another 500 shares at $34.09. Another 200 shares at $34.17. So I still have a couple hundred shares on the trade. So then as AMD rolls back down to retest this previous breakout support, I end up getting long another couple hundred shares. So I bought 200 shares here at $33.95, 400 shares at $33.97, and another 200 shares at $33.97. And as it pops up, I end up selling 600 shares on this pop. And then I held 600 shares pretty much all day long, seeing if we get some continuation into late day for another move higher. It fails, and I end up taking those 600 shares off at $33.93 to result in a P&L of just $66 on AMD. So all in all, not terrible, but is what it is, okay? All right, now let's move over to Netflix. Netflix was a pretty easy trade for me today. So Netflix ended up making a total of $100 on it, okay? There was two trades. So first trade was here in the beginning of the day. Pretty straightforward. Price action's going down. The whole market's bearish. We kind of have this little flagging setup. So I end up getting short 300 shares here. 300 shares at 287.15, drops out down to 286.43. I take off 200 shares. And then I take off another 50 shares at 286.51 and another 50 shares at 286.79. So just a quick kind of scalp trade to the downside. That one netted close to like $200 or a couple $100. And later in the day, we had this kind of nice move up here to break resistance. I got long 300 shares on the breaks over these tops. Pops up, I'm up about $100, and then the market started to roll over, which took Netflix down with it. So I ended up closing out that trade for like a $90 loss, resulting in a P&L of just $100 on the day for Netflix. So all in all, not terrible, not the best. All right. Moving over to Etsy. Etsy was kind of my big winner on the day. So Etsy was an earnings play today. Traded a couple times. So first trade in the morning was a 400 share short on the first 1 minute candle, as we're pretty much coming down to break. We're kind of breaking down on the day, right? So opens up, a lot of selling pressure. So I go short 400 shares at 45.81, and then I add another 300 shares at 45.55. And as this candle comes crashing down, I cover up 500 shares at 45.07. And then I cover up another 100 shares at 45.60, and then another 100 shares at 45.18. All right, and then as it kind of trails to the side and I can just recognize the selling weakness, I go short on this candle with 1,000 shares at 44.75. It breaks down. I cover up 200 shares at 44.26. I cover up another 600 shares at 44.14, and then another 100 shares here at 44.12. And then over here, as we kind of start to squeeze up, I took off the last remaining shares. that netted a pretty good trade. So at this point, I'm pretty profitable on Etsy for the day. And then later in the day, let me delete some of these drawings and pull this like that. Okay, so later in the day, Etsy bounces, goes through a short squeeze, all right? And let me pull up the RSI here. That'll help you guys when I talk about this trade. Okay, so Etsy goes through a pop and a short squeeze here, okay? Look at the RSI. Oh, I can't even see the full RSI unless I pull this up more. Oh, excuse me, down here. Wow, that's being odd. All right, anyways, so this trade here goes through a little bit of a pop, puts in a top. The RSI, you can't fully see it, but it's like up here, all right? And then as it comes back up to press into a new high over this high, it's on lower momentum. So I'm like, okay, that's a bearish divergence. I'm going to take a short. So I go short 2,000 shares at 45.03. And let me zoom in. You can't really see that good. I'm going to take a step back from this, go back in. Okay. So you can see here, it pops up and I go short. Just trying to do a scalp trade. I get short here at 2,000 shares short at 45.03. It presses down. I'm up like 175 bucks, and typically I do market orders. I market order out, and all of a sudden I go from 175 to like losing 50 bucks. That typically doesn't happen. Normally it wouldn't happen. Sure, I might give back some profit on the trade, but it typically wouldn't give back a whole $175 or the way it did. So and I'm taking a small loss there. And then later I can see that it's going to pop up. So I do another scalp trade here of 2,000 shares at 45.47, sell them all out at 45.60 for a nice win, resulting in a P&L of $1,000 on the day. So not terrible trading. Really, the only bad trade was like this one that I kind of got gypped on. Okay, let's move forward. Baba was decent. If I was a little bit more patient or waited a little bit longer, it would have been a win. All right, so ended up losing $68 today on Baba. So Baba was channeling down into sort of like a descending triangle bearish pattern, right? So I ended up getting short down here on these levels. So I ended up taking 500 shares short, looking for it to break down. It holds, and the market started to bounce a bit. I'm like, well, I'm not going to risk it going through a short squeeze and lose some money. So I ended up taking off for a $68 loss. Shortly thereafter, boom, comes down. So would have been a win if I held or waited a little bit longer to enter there. So pretty straightforward, loss of 68 bucks. All right, next one. What do we have? Twitter. Twitter wasn't bad. So Twitter got some news that they're not going to do political ads, blah, blah, blah. And so anyways, I decided to go short on it today. Worked out decent. I ended up going 2,000 shares short here at 29.18. It drops out. I take off 500 shares at 29.03. Add 500 shares short here at 29.12. Comes down to 29.11. End up closing out that full trade. Okay. And so ended up with 113 bucks here. And then later in the day, this kind of just had like some nice moves. And I was really just going for a scalp trade. Wasn't really caring too much at this point. So I went 1,000 shares long. Didn't really do much. This is pretty much just pointless to even talk about. But anyways, netted 113 bucks there on Twitter today. And then the last thing I traded was during after hours with our premium group. We kind of had a little afternoon stream going, and we traded Pinterest. I was showing our team how I go about trading earnings reports. So it wasn't terrible. Didn't really make that much money. Could have been better, could have been worse, but definitely a good lesson for the traders in our group. All right, so Pinterest, if this works, thank you. Jeez, what am I doing? All right, here we go. It's been a long day. Like, seriously, is this how we're gonna do this now? Does it just not even? There you go. Jeez. All right. So we're not going to go over exact details of how I do the earnings trade right now because we've done previous videos on that, so you guys should go check those out. All right. So long story short, Pins comes down, I add 100 shares here at 21.32. Comes down more, add 75 shares at 20.54. I add some more shares, 50 shares here at 20.35. Add more shares at 20.64. More shares at 20.62. More shares at 20.43. So pretty much just adding shares all through the bottom here. And as we pop up, get to the 9 moving average and get over my average price, I start to sell and basically accumulate a small win of 56 bucks. If this had kind of popped and then ripped back up, it would have been a nice winner, but ended up only walking away with 56 bucks. So all in all, not bad, but you know, is what it is. You get what you can take what you get. All right, so other than that, that's really what happened today. There was a lot of lagging going on, a lot of freezing. It was definitely a challenging day. Still traded really well, so I can't complain. Ended up the day just about shy of $1,000. So all in all, great trading day. Can't complain. It's basically 3 weeks in a row, pretty much all green. I think I've had like 2, maybe 3 red days over the past 3 weeks. So pretty solid trading. So other than that, I mean, that's really all I got for you guys tonight. So I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you learned something new. And if you guys would like to join us in our premium group, which is private, and we go live every single day, trade the markets live Monday through Friday, you can do so by checking out the description below. There's a link to our website, and there's also a coupon in that description, which you can use to get a discount if you choose to join. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, everybody take care. Have a great night. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you guys on the next video.